we prefer neurodivergent, but
Yeah. So watch yourself, technically.
It, so we're not using the word retarded anymore. Is that?
oh well. So one time,
Shut up, retard.
I'm trying to remember the origins of inside jokes have gotten muddled over the years.
Yeah, they have.
But there was something I was listening to one day on the way back from like vacation, and they were talking about how if you have
Agenda?
yeah, I think it was No Agenda. If you have like ADD or like any kind of neural issues, like Joseph was in a couple car accidents and he has like memory problems. And I just messaged him one day and I was like, hey, and because of that, like we're technically on the spectrum or something like that now. You know, the bubble for it or like the net for it keeps getting bigger. And so I just messaged him one day and I was like, hey, I have good news. He was like, what? I was like, technically we're on the spectrum. So ever since then, we like mess with people. Because one time I think I said like spaz or something on the podcast and Joseph,
that is
yeah,
the dumbest. I hate
know.
that.
Joseph put it in a clip and all of these people got mad at me. And I was literally like, guys, actually I'm neurodivergent. So it's okay for me to say that.
But like of all words,
And of course, I'm in the comments saying like only spazzes would get offended by this.
So it is what it is, and you know, we're
it's so silly. I can't take those people seriously.
no. And you know, for a long time I was like, this can't be real. It can't be real. But over time I've moved into the category of like, no, there are a lot of people on the internet that just think this. People are a little too like internet brained, you know. Like I was telling Joseph earlier, I was like, I have to be careful sometimes because my internet like tisms come out in like in real life situations. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I gotta quit. It's like people don't. It's like it doesn't work the same, but it's always really interesting. Alrighty, hang on, let me check something real quick. Joseph, why did you send me a bunch of Chinese letters?
I was just saying I was ready.
Oh, is that like a translate or something? Did you translate that?
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be
Japanese?
Like, oh, it's Jap. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, come on.
Oh man, can't keep
a
up
Japan. Is that how they said it? Say it on Shogun.
Now I can't remember.
The Japans.
Oh yeah, the Japans.
That gives me goosebumps. Every time Blackbeard says Japans, like I get turned on. No joke. It's so fun.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just go live. We're actually on time for once, which is incredible. Make sure everything's running smooth.
My son rearranged all my desktop icons.
Mine
I just realized.
Mine just randomly do that sometimes. All right.
Okay.
It looks like we're live. All right.
Nice. Let me check and see how the audio sounds.
Actually, hold on.
Nice. Let me check. Nothing yet.
Okay, sorry. I forgot I have to hit live and then hit live again so that we actually go live.
See, is it like a member stream or a private?
No.
I remember you guys record it.
Oh
strangely.
yeah. So it's only happened one time, but for some reason YouTube changed the settings on me when we were doing a live stream one time. Maybe it was the last time you were here, but it was private for like 15 minutes, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And I was like, how did this get set to private? I was like, why on earth would I do a private live stream? Like it's weird. But we should be good now.
I always have to type in the underground channel to get to your YouTube channel, even though I go there all the time and YouTube should have figured it out by now.
Yeah, it's been having issues. I'm just glad that the thumbnail is actually what it's supposed to be, because sometimes that doesn't even work right.
Yeah, right. Not feeling that. Technically Mexican. I've been having the same issue with your stuff as well, and some other people's that I go to frequently. I have to search for them, But actually, yesterday, just to let you know, it finally put one of your videos in my home feed, and so it
Nice.
was the one that you released yesterday, and I listened to it today. I downvoted it though.
The live stream.
Yeah, the live stream from yesterday, I was able to listen to it today, and I
See-
disliked it for you.
I didn't want to listen to it because I didn't want to know what you thought about the show until we actually got a chance to talk.
I just
to
put
you.
it.
wanted to go in
I
fresh.
did the same thing, David.
Want to go
I
fresh.
just put it on and turned it down, so I muted it so that you
Oh.
would get the video.
I just went
credit
into
and everything.
generalities on my show because
Uh,
most of my guests had only seen like the first 2 episodes, so
Interesting.
I didn't
Interesting.
get into it.
Okay. We'll do our best to appease.
Oh no, he said that he
that
really loved it.
itch.
That he's already watched it like 3 times.
Who, you?
No, technically, that's what he said.
Oh, okay.
I heard him.
No, I've only seen the show once.
No, I know, I'm
What
joking.
are you talking about? Don't put
Yeah.
words in my mouth.
Hey, I guess before we get into everything, you like that meme I sent you, David, before we started with the Johnny Bravo kids?
Oh yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. All right. Well, as you guys may have already figured out, Technically Mexican is back on the show. We're happy to have you back, sir.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, technically, we appreciate you put on your hard hat and joining us to do the hard work of streaming.
Yeah.
It takes special people to put
It really
in time and
does.
effort to do this.
Bro.
I'm just built different, you know.
Can you believe they doubled down on all that?
And I totally
Good.
can.
It's funny too because I think that was the last thing we talked about before you went on your hiatus, Joseph.
Yeah, I know. And thank you, everybody in the troll room for joining us, Hattori and Jenna. And just to explain the reason why is there was a family emergency I had to take care of the last 3 weeks. That was unexpected, but I am back and ready.
Yes, yes. So I guess we're gonna start with Three Body Problem because we have a lot of stuff to catch up on. But I figured it's fresh in my mind, and I'm assuming for you guys it's pretty fresh as well. So if y'all are ready, I'd like some.
Yeah, I was sharing the stream everywhere. So
Oh, you're good. You're good.
I'm ready now.
I'd like just your sort of general thoughts about it before we kind of talk about the show. Just like kind of overall what you thought,
Right.
and like likes, dislikes, that sort of thing, and then we can kind of move into some more of the details. And I'm actually going to pull up the cast too because there are a lot of people in the show, and I'm going to constantly forget names
Same.
of people. So I'm going to do that real quick, and y'all just
Well,
kind of
technically-
y'all tell me. Yeah, technically, if you'd like to start since you are the guest.
Yeah, sure. So I did my homework. I read the book before the show came out, and I was ready.
Uh-huh.
I binged the whole show in a day,
Wow.
and well, I also got sick, so
fair enough,
I had a
fair
cold. I was like, okay, I'll just watch all of Three Body Problem, and apparently it wasn't enough. I speed read the book in a couple days, got ready, and they finished book 1 in the first 5 episodes, and I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. So I wasn't prepared enough. I had to do some Wikipedia Googling to figure out where book 2 actually goes to see if it was faithful.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm the book expert now, and the TV show is interesting. Like I always have to rate adaptations twice.
Okay.
You rate it on its own merits, as if the source material doesn't exist, and then you rate it as an adaptation. And I think as a TV show, it's pretty good.
Okay.
It's like an 8 out of 10. It's a solid sci-fi. As an adaptation, I have very, very mixed feelings.
Okay. That's interesting.
It does a lot of stuff perfectly. But it also makes a lot of missteps and then random weird unexplainable changes
Okay. Yeah, that stuff's always
that concern me.
Yeah, that stuff's always interesting to me because like I have no context for the book. I'm at the point in my life now where, we cover TV and movies and occasionally video games, and we have like context for source materials when they're adapted, but like typically our goal is to take it for what we're given. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's just got to be like our streamline, because I mean, like, props to you for like reading through that book. Like, there's no way, you know what I mean?
The book is well, I've realized I hate modern TV so much that I'm having more fun reading books.
Yeah.
So I've been just listening to audiobooks nonstop. I'm also a stay-at-home dad. I take care of kids, and so while I do chores, I can just listen to an audiobook, and I can like finish a book in a day.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I listen at 2 times speed so I can read more books.
Well, dude, that's gonna ruin your patience, man.
No, it's been great. Like last year I read more books than I've read my entire life put together.
Oh dang.
Or read in quotes if audiobooks count.
Yeah, it's good enough for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
me too.
I understand like time. It's hard to sit down and read. To really like cut out that time, because you can't be doing anything else except that. Like you don't like read and take care of kids. Really, you don't read and whatever.
But you can listen and take care of kids.
Yeah,
David
exactly.
doesn't read because he can't.
It's
but
true.
For
It's
like
true.
me and you,
That's why I tell people I read comics, because I just look at the pretty pictures.
Well, yeah, that's why he just gets magazines too, just to
Yeah.
do the same thing.
I don't even remember.
But I mean, there's a point like you can clean, you can do chores, various other things, and listen to audiobooks. I'll do the same thing technically. Like for the Silmarillion, for example, I was going between the audiobook versus reading, because typically if I read, it's going to be at night before I go to sleep.
If you're sitting in bed, you can pull up the book, right?
Yeah, exactly, and I can just sit there and read it. And I was alternating between both, which actually became quite difficult because, trying to keep up with the audiobook versus the physical format and be like, where did I leave off in the audiobook?
I just finished this Silmarillion too.
But I'm trying to go through and finish up the Lord of the Rings again, reading it myself versus the audiobook. So
yeah,
so I feel you on that. We'll let it count.
Yeah, no, I just don't like anything Hollywood has been doing, and so I'm just finding stuff that I do enjoy.
Yeah, it's
getting too old. I used to just watch all of the the new Star Wars releases and complain about it every time, and I still will. But like with Ahsoka, like I couldn't even finish, and so I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm gonna do stuff that I'm gonna watch stuff I like.
Yeah, we understand for sure, because we got about halfway through Halo, and then Joseph actually this time was like, let's just be done with this.
Yeah, if it's something I'm invested in, like the Wheel of Time, like it's my duty.
I get it.
Like I'm gonna protect my baby, and call Amazon out for their stupidity. But
yeah. I've realized that's like how invested I am in IP has a lot to do with how
it was
deep,
it was a sad day for me when I realized, Star Wars does not matter to me anymore.
Well,
that's really sad, but it's kind of relieving too to just stop.
Yeah, it was that happened to me. I mean, we've talked about this to a crazy extent, but I know you like The Last Jedi, but so after I had seen that twice, and someone came up to me and was like asking me about it one day, and I just looked at him, I was like, Star Wars isn't made for me anymore. I was like, it's just not. And I was like, I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, the Last Jedi is made a lot worse with where they took the third movie. Like I 100% agree, it's got problems, but I liked some of the things that they were trying to do in The Last Jedi.
Yeah. I guess by comparison, I mean, that was the thing that I think it split the fan base, and then everything they've done since has just been killing it. I mean, just absolutely killing it off.
I also wasn't as ingrained in the culture war
fair enough.
when I watched the Last Jedi, so I didn't realize that it was a big pattern to destroy old heroes and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing that woke me up to it.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I was just like, because even, I mean, we're just getting off topic. So
yeah, already.
But even I mean, like I saw Force Awakens like 10 times in theaters, like no joke.
Yeah.
Like I was totally just enthralled with Star Wars being back.
Yes, he was.
And
everyone was excited for it.
Super
there
excited.
There were a couple people who were like, this isn't very good, but most people were on board.
And well, Joseph was never really a Star Wars fan. Like that's not what we connected over. And I saw not Force Awakens, The Last Jedi on opening night.
Last Jedi.
And I walked out of the theater, and I was just like, it was just weird. I was like, something was not right. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was, but I was like, something's not right.
It was a landmark moment for sure.
And I went back and watched it again, and I brought a friend of mine with me because he wanted to see it again too. And I got out of the theater, and I was like, bro, I don't think that was very good.
Yeah. Well, I see a whole bunch of comments are shocked. So just to quickly sum up why I originally liked The Last Jedi. The problems that people have with it are completely valid, but they only exist because of the first movie. Like the fact that Luke Skywalker is absent is presented in the first movie with no explanation.
Yeah.
And I thought that the explanation that Rian Johnson tried to give logically made sense.
Yeah, I guess
because any other answer to that question, well, how come Luke isn't helping, makes him look like a really bad person. And the answer that I actually came up with the theory myself before I saw the movie and watched it, I was like, oh, I was right, is he's cut himself off from the Force because he wants people to solve their own problems.
Yeah, it's just very not him though.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? The whole
character assassination.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's not what I would have done with the character.
No.
But I think that it was the best answer for the question posed in the first movie.
It was crazy. And it's weird because at the time...
So it's J.J. Abrams' fault because he asked a stupid question.
He gets a lot of blame for his dumb mystery box stuff that he does. And then of course... Ryan is the guy that outwardly, and he probably gets the most hate because he outwardly disrespected.
Yeah, and I didn't see any of that. I didn't know about that, but I've seen the videos now. I'm like, okay,
well, not just that
was not a good move. Not a good move.
With that in hindsight, you see the Luke throwing the lightsaber, and there's a lot of the stuff in that movie. And to be honest, it's been so long. I haven't seen it since.
It's very symbolic. Yes. It's all there.
And there's a lot of just I mean, there's a lot of typical Rian Johnson stupidity that everyone now everyone he still has this his fans, they're not quite as rabid as Zack Snyder's fans, but they all think that his movies are more intelligent than they actually are.
Yeah. I will fight you on Knives Out. I think Knives Out is clever. The sequel was awful.
Yeah,
It's garbage.
Knives Out is fine. But
no, it's not. But that's okay.
I'm allowing.
I've heard. We've already had this discussion. We had this discussion last time.
I know. We can't help it. We can't help it. It always gets brought back up.
I agree with you that the Glass Onion was just. I don't know what that was.
It's really it's fresh.
The Force Awakens was terrible.
Yeah. Especially in hindsight, it's just right.
So Three Body Problem, is that what you're talking about?
Three Body Problem. Joseph, what'd you think?
Yeah, before I complain about the adaptation, I want to hear what you guys thought as a standalone.
As just a standalone thing. Yeah, you go first, Joseph.
I'm kind of middle of the road on it. I'm fine. I was never connected to any of the characters, with the exception of I think his name is Jack. I thought not just Jack, which is the. Let's see.
Wait, are we talking about
the detective? So yeah, Jack Rooney, the rich.
Jack was the Sam from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely, he was the best character, and they messed up.
Yep, I would probably say my favorite character was Benedict Wong.
Yeah.
And
I
he
liked
played
him.
the detective in the show.
Dashai.
Yeah,
I would counter with Liam Cunningham. I thought he was much
Yes. Yeah.
better. Or Thomas Wade. Sorry,
I was
Benedict Wong was great, but
yeah, I agree. Wade was great as well. I just think I was really enjoying it, and still until I started to question why certain things were happening. Then once I started to question it, that's when the show started to unravel for me, along with the fact of I wasn't getting drawn in and hooked with the character writing. And I'm more so, I could be more forgiving with plot if the characters are really great. And I just, outside of those few characters, nothing else really held up for me. And I don't want to get too specific since we want to.
Yeah, I'm trying to bite my tongue so you can get it all out before I shatter your world.
Yeah, Joseph, I'm kind of with you there. Okay, so without getting, because we'll get into spoilers, but without getting into spoilers, I'm not sure the plot gets interesting until the end of the third episode. Like that's kind of because I knew something happened at the end of the third episode that was specifically supposed to like kind of like it was almost like the race was finally getting going. And I think the first 3 episodes suffer a lot because they waste a lot of time not developing the characters. The show is like really weird in that sense because, and again, without going into details, it just seems like it takes them an insane amount of time for our main cast of characters to finally start developing and for interesting things beginning to happen to them. Like it was very weird to me that it was like the last 3-ish episodes where I was finally getting slightly invested in certain points of like certain parts of the cast and things that were going on. And I found that really frustrating. I like a lot of the sci-fi stuff. I think that stuff is very interesting.
Yep.
I'm not sure it's handled very well. And again, this is on like one viewing of the show. It's like I would have to really go back and like be like, okay, it's like, does this make sense? It's like I know there's some stuff that doesn't. There are
some things that do not make sense.
Yeah, there are some there are some points where you have to reach pretty hard to be like, okay, like I guess, especially when it comes to sort of like what I would call the main antagonists of the show from like what they're setting up. There's some stuff in it that's like, I don't, like, okay, because there's a lot of interesting stuff that they do, with like the technology and the sort of like, you could almost call it like, what's the term I'm looking for? Like, there's almost like this technological race that's going on.
Yes,
in the show.
It's a space race.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough.
Right. Yeah, but it's not a space race. It's a I guess like a space race / Cold War.
Yeah, something like that. It's like there are a lot of really cool ideas in the show, but I'm not sure it's all been developed in the way that it probably needed to be in 8 episodes. So like I don't really care about a lot of the characters' motivations till much later.
And I thought the interpersonal drama with that, David, what you're talking about, it was kind of struck me as the problem with Halo. Okay, you have this bigger overarching issue that you're facing.
Yeah.
This interpersonal drama doesn't make sense in light of that. You know what I mean?
So let me compare.
It's like to me, it's like if there's a forest fire going on around my home, and I get upset at my wife for not doing the dishes when she says she would. Yeah. It's like, what? That doesn't make...
Well, they spend a lot of time on the interpersonal stuff to a degree that I'm kind of like, man, I'm not invested in this. Like I'm not invested in a lot of these characters till like, and to be fair to the show, like it gets me part of the way there, but it's annoying because now I have to wait for another season to come out to see if they can actually like pay off some of that. And we'll get into spoilers with it because there is a specific.
Yeah, we've kind of danced around it for a while now.
There are
without
there are probably, I'm looking at the cast. There are like 4 characters in particular that if we don't get like proper payoff with it, I'm going to be annoyed. And I can't tell you that yet because I have to wait for another season.
So this show hooked you in enough to where you would watch it again.
Yeah.
I will wait until they announce season 2, and then I'll probably watch the first season again just to get caught back up.
Okay. I love everything that I'm hearing. It's making me realize I probably liked the show more than you did because I'd read the book.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense.
And so I'm filling in the gaps
in
my head automatically, right? Yep. So I'm a biased observer. Because the things that it does adapt from the books well, it's really fun to see on camera, like the boat scene. When you're reading it in the book, you're like, okay, this is crazy, and then you get, but when you see it, you're like, oh yeah, baby. that's the kind of thing you want to see on screen.
Absolutely.
You're talking about the boat scene
with the fibers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got some thoughts about that.
But yeah, all of the stuff that you're saying about the characters is spot on. And there's a very specific reason for it.
Now, let me ask you this about the book because I heard something, but I don't know if it's true.
Yes.
Are there less characters in the book, and that they?
Okay. You want me to drop the hammer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The main character from the books is not in the TV show.
Oh.
The main character was replaced with 5 characters.
And what was the main character?
The 5 college students.
Okay.
The 5 friends. The main character is Chinese, and he was replaced with 5 college friends. So you got the Elizabeth, you got Augie, you got the super diverse. You got the Mexican, you got the Englishman, you got the Chinese one, and the black one.
Yes.
And wait.
There's 2. Well,
the other
Jack,
English, and the other English one.
Jack, Will, Augie, Saul, and Jin.
And Will,
and Will. Did I miss Will? Yeah, and Will.
No, you said Will.
Okay.
Augie, Jack, Jin,
Saul,
Will. I forgot Saul's name. That's who it was.
Okay. So that
the
is
main
true.
character is split into 5 different characters.
So why is there a reason?
Diversity.
That's really what it is. That they just needed to. It was okay.
There are. Okay.
That explains a lot of why it feels like they're flat.
Yeah. There are parts of it that actually do work. Like in the comments, Hattori, what he mentioned, one of those characters actually becomes the main character of book 2.
Okay.
So in book 2, a new character is introduced, and he's the main character of book 2. And they give that role to Saul.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of worked to split the character up and let you, give you time to know the character before Saul is given the role that he's given in episode 6 or 7.
That's so interesting. I'm so conflicted.
But the problem is he did nothing for 6 episodes.
Oh, dude, yeah, he got baked for 6 episodes and he doesn't. I don't think his character. And again, we'll get progressively.
Yeah, so
into
it kind of worked, but it also kind of shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
They introduced his character, and he's in episode 1. He's working at the Large Hadron Collider.
Yeah.
He's a particle physicist. He's a genius. And then for 6 episodes, we're told, oh no, the 2 girls, they're the smart ones, and us 3 boys are just freaking idiots.
Yeah.
And they sit around and talk about their feelings while the 2 girls get all the screen time.
Yeah, Will keeps jumping on.
Yeah.
He keeps bouncing back and forth when he's about.
Now,
to...
I mean, adding more characters gave them the option to do shocking things like kill some of them off.
Yeah, but see
that's debatable whether or not that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I would argue they killed off the best character.
Yeah, I don't really.
He was the only one that was likable.
I don't know what they were like. There's stuff. So there's stuff with Will. And when I was saying, and again, I don't want to get into it quite yet, but
Will's storyline is completely made up. It's
Okay.
not in any of the books.
I like.
It might be in book 3.
Okay.
I haven't. I didn't want to spoil too much of the books for myself, so I didn't read so it might be something in book 3, but I doubt it.
I like what from just like a potential.
It
but
actually worked for me, though.
Yeah, especially when they finally get to a place where they're kind of potentially like hinting at the future or whatever of like what could happen with him. I was like, oh, that's kind of that's kind of cool.
They're saying Will is a book 3 character. Okay,
which means that he's not gonna. It's gonna be a big reveal either at the end of season 2 or in season 3, which I was a little bit worried about, but I'm fine knowing that like potentially there's some stuff coming with that. But
thanks, Hattori. I was wondering about that, and I didn't want to bring up the wiki for book 3 yet. So
I'm still like. I think the biggest problem with the season is that you have, because of what they did and splitting up these characters, you have 5 mostly flat characters until the last couple episodes of the show. Like I'm not invested in any of them. It's not until like something happens to Saul in the very last episode, or like his story literally doesn't get started until like maybe the last 2 episodes.
And when it does, it's like this is the best part of the series.
Yeah, and because he's finally having.
But what were you doing the rest of the time?
Yeah, it's like I don't know. Like there could have. I couldn't tell you yet what could have fixed a lot of this season without just being like it should have been shorter, but that doesn't really work either because of the overarching story that they're trying to tell. Other than they needed the 5 main characters to get less screen time if it's not important for them to be there.
So I guess technically I have to recant my statement. He was the main character of the first book is basically replaced with the 2 women.
Okay.
Because then Saul is the main character of book 3, and Will is the main character or not main. He is a character from book 3,
okay.
And then the other one dies. So
yeah, which I guess we can kind of we can get right to it, Joseph. I don't know if there's anything in particular with the first few episodes that like jumped out at you, but. The biggest thing for me about the first 3 episodes is it just takes a really long time for them to get to what they thought would be a really cool, shocking moment that
I hate it.
Is sort of like
the stars flickering.
Oh, I don't.
I hated it. Yeah. I hated it. It doesn't make any sense. And once you know,
in
the reveal at the end of the series of what's causing this, making the change, so it's supposed to be flares in the background radiation of the universe.
Yeah,
that does like a Morse code that sends that reveals information to the main character.
Yeah,
and it's like a small localized experience, which is something that could be done, but they made the stars flicker for the entire world. That.
Well, wasn't that the point?
Are we spoiling what it is? Or
oh yeah, we can go into it.
Okay, so the photons, not the protons. What do they call them?
The 2 things that they sent through an
Sophons.
Alternate, the Sophons.
The Sophons.
They're like an alternate dimension, right? Is what
they wouldn't have been able to do that. It's so dumb. They made the stars flicker for the entire world, and it would be different based on where you're standing.
Yeah,
you would have to block out people's eyes. So how it's supposed? Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
What I absolutely hated about the first episode was the reveal of the countdown. It just pops in her eyes, and she's like, "What's this?
Yeah.
Spooky." It in the books. it is one of the most ominous, like terrifying reveals. And that's when I was like, okay, this book is interesting. What's going on here? And then they introduced this concept, and I was like, I am hooked. I need to know what's going on. Because it kind of starts off as a slow burn. You get the China flashbacks and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you get like horrific things happening, like the struggle sessions, which is great, but it's not like plot, you know?
Yeah.
It's set up. He's supposed to be a photographer. And he notices like numbers appearing in his photos, and he's like, "What is this?" It's like this slow burn, and he slowly experiments on it and figures out that they're like in the negatives, and they change color based on the background, and so it's like it's always a perfect image, and you're like, he's trying to solve this mystery, and he starts working on it for so long that eventually the countdown gets burned into his retina, and he sees it always, and it's like what is going on? Like it's really, really well done in the books, and it just appears further in episode 1. It just came out of nowhere, and I didn't feel anything.
The Sophons are allegedly the source of all that stuff, right? That was the idea, is that
yes.
So,
okay, so if you want book lore, okay.
Yeah.
So the aliens,
the Shanti, right?
The Sanchi. I actually don't even know their names yet in the books. They're just the Trisolarans.
Okay.
I don't know if the Santi is their official name. Probably isn't. But okay, so they're stuck in a 3-body system, which is a notorious problem in science that is unsolvable. You cannot calculate or predict the movement of a 3-body system. And so they go through stable eras and unstable eras, and eras where their entire civilization is just burnt up or frozen because they're too close or too far away from the suns. So when they're orbiting one sun, it's a stable era, but sometimes they get pulled by the gravity of one of the other suns, and it's unstable. And so they've developed the technology to dehydrate their bodies to survive these catastrophic events.
Okay, because I don't know if that was real clear in the show that was a technology. I kind of had this like assumption that it was like, oh, they just do that.
It might be part of their biology. It hasn't gotten into it that much yet.
Okay.
So they're able to do that,
right?
But because they are it's biology, okay? Because they are constantly subject to this horrible world that they live in, their science has only been able to progress linearly.
Yeah.
Very slowly, and sometimes it gets wiped out and they have to start over. Okay? But Earth's science has been it increases, not logarithmically, exponentially.
Yeah.
It starts off slow and then skyrockets, just the advances, because that's what we've seen in real life, right?
Right.
So at the time that they first make contact with the humans, which is wonderful, and I love that they didn't sanitize the themes, the Chinese criticism that is in the books. The author actually had to hide the opening sequence in the middle of his book to get past censors. He chopped it up and put it in a bunch of different flashbacks to get it past Chinese censors, and then when it was translated into English, he's like, okay, that's the first chapter.
Oh, that's
is
all right.
Guy gets murdered by psychopaths in the Maoist China regime. Okay?
Which is so impactful for something that then slows down for like 3 episodes.
Yeah,
and feels a little bit meandering.
So like the theme is like the Yao Wenxia, the Chinese lady, sees her father murdered on the altar of society at the sacrifice of science, right? He's because he's a reactionary, and a bunch of other crappy things happen to her, so she completely loses her faith in humanity,
right?
And instead puts her trust in aliens. Communism is so bad that I would rather have aliens control me, right?
Yeah, and it's an interesting.
I like that theme.
Well,
it's a good theme,
and it's because that's something that I think a lot of I think there's it's relatable. that like the idea that stuff happens in your life that makes you so miserable
Lose
that, like,
faith, yeah.
yeah, you see something that potentially is
That's it.
like a higher power in like what she saw,
Yeah.
that you go like fully into that no matter what it is.
So I was really scared that they were gonna sanitize that in the show.
Yeah.
But they showed it. I don't think they like hit the theme into you as much as the book does.
No,
but
it's not surprising that they didn't, but
but they showed
it's there.
They showed all the bad stuff,
Yeah,
right? They
it's
didn't
there.
talk
There's-
about it as much.
Mhm. It's clearly it's
So
really
props
hard to completely get rid of it.
Props to Netflix. Like you gotta.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't do that. Okay, but so she betrays the entire human race, contacts the aliens, even after the aliens say, do not respond, do not respond. If you respond, like my friends are gonna mess you up, right?
Yeah.
That's such a cool part in the books. Like the first message you get from the aliens is, no, don't talk to us. You actually get a perspective chapter from the alien who receives the message as well.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
He's just called Watcher.
Well, and that's like, okay, so like why that's in the first book, right?
Yeah.
Why is that not in the show? Like why would that's
That's a really good question, man.
like why I don't know. Okay, so like say I don't know, because you could have condensed 1, 2, and 3 into like 2 episodes.
You could have taken out episode 6.
Yeah, and then like I guess with like just to go ahead and get it to spoil. I think we've kind of mentioned it already, but like Jack.
Oh, I've spoiled stuff.
Jack,
via
Jack dies at the end of the second episode, and then the third episode is the thing that you just talked about. So it's an interesting opportunity for you to take the everybody watching the show out of what's going on here and do something like that, even if it's not a full episode. Like even if you
well,
go back,
you don't get the alien perspective. It's literally the last chapter of the book.
Okay,
So you get all the human perspective, and then the last chapter is, and here's what the aliens were doing the whole time, you idiots.
yeah,
It's really cool.
You could easily have done something like that because the show needed.
It's also
needed
really
that.
interesting though, because in the book they're like, it's describing these things happening to the aliens, and they're like, oh, and this science project went wrong, and they saw a symbol of an eye on this thing, and they're like, well, we don't really know what Trisolaran eyes look like,
Yeah.
but you would have to imagine that it looked like an eye to them. It's really, really good writing. Okay, but to finish the point,
Yeah.
so after they receive contact, the aliens get in contact with a group of zealots who are willing to help them overthrow the Earth and take over.
Yeah.
The Trisolarans realize, after trying to solve the 3-body problem, that it's famously unsolvable. That rather than trying to predict the future so that they can protect their society, the only answer is to flee and to find a new home. So they find Earth, and they send a bunch of their people to Earth, but realize, because of the way that our technologies progress and the fact that it's going to take them 400 years to get there, there's a wonderful line from the books. They're like, this is not I completely forgot. He says, but this is not, a declaration of war. It's a funeral procession.
Yeah, which I think is in the
Yes.
show.
Because right now our technology is better,
Yeah.
but in 400 years, once we show up, we're going to get murdered.
Right. So
So they create the photons, and because their technology is better, how it works is they are able to manipulate dimensions. They are 3-dimensional beings, but their science has progressed enough to understand larger dimensions.
Yeah.
So they take a photon from the 11th dimension, and they unfold it into the second dimension, into a big old piece of paper, and encode onto it a supercomputer, and then fold it back up into the size of a photon. And that's their Scion. What was it called?
the Sophon.
Sophon. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So they create 4 of those. They link 2 and 2 together and keep 2 and send 2 to Earth, because a particle that small they can send at light speeds.
Right.
So that gets to Earth, and they use those photons, which are paired with the two at the Trisolaran home, to get real-time updates on Earth, and they're able to screw up science.
Which
So
is,
yeah, because these photons are capable of moving at light speeds. It's two tiny particles, but they can move really fast and multi-process, right? Because it's so fast that they jump around the Earth and mess up all of the collider projects so that the data doesn't make sense. So the goal is to cripple Earth's science so they can't progress.
Right. Well, I feel like
they can make no new discoveries, and so Earth has to cope with the technology that they already have.
Right. So that's kind of what, because the way that it was described in the show made it seem like, oh, we're going to use these to pretty much just destabilize you guys completely. So it wasn't just like science projects. It was like,
and so they're undermining the society as well. Like they're trying to trick scientists into thinking that they've gone crazy, and so that they kill themselves.
So they do that, but then they reveal that to everyone in the show, and I feel like it became like a moot point by the time the last episode aired.
Yes.
Because it was one of those things where I was like, oh, holy crap. I was like, they've just lost. Like, you lost. Like, this is over. You can't... You guys aren't winning this now. But it was also kind of strange to me because, like, in my mind, like, without a lot of understanding of the aliens in the show, I was like, you were able to send, like, something like that through there. I was like, why didn't you just, like, send something so you just kill most of the population?
Right, because they can't.
But
right?
like,
that's what I was thinking.
Well, I don't
They
understand.
can't. They've got these two tiny particles, and that's it.
Yeah, but doesn't that's something that they fold and unfold, right? That's the technology. Isn't that the way that works?
Yeah.
Hang
so
on.
there's this giant.
Sorry, guys. I just accidentally. We're good. We're back.
You ended the stream.
I hit spacebar and it just totally turned everything off. So I'm gonna move my keyboard a little further away from me.
Yes. So the second experiment, they unfold the photon and into the third dimension, and it's this giant looming eye staring at the Trisolarans, which comes into play in later books. Okay. I've heard there's another being, there's some other aliens involved or some kind of thing, right?
Well, I figured there was going to be more to it.
And so like and they're like, isn't this giant 3D object going to crush us? They're like, no, because it only has the mass of a single photon, and so it just like and they blow it up and it just dissolves into powder. You know, like it can't hurt them. Okay. So they can't do anything like physical.
But then like the whole so
they can't just send the photon to just go kill a human, right? But they can put stuff in your eyes and make you see things that aren't there, and they can go in and mess up your particle accelerators so that you can't make any new advances, right? They can but they can get the humans, the terrorists
and
who become religious zealots and worship the aliens. They can get them to do the physical stuff.
A lot of stuff. So and then with the this is okay. I'm getting a little bit of a grasp of the like functionality of this part of the story. So the whole like ticking clock thing was fake, essentially.
Yeah,
like if she
it was a lie.
It was a lie.
Well, okay, lie is a bad word because they can't lie, but it was just
they fooled
they're
them.
trying to make these scientists go crazy and kill themselves.
Yeah.
Well, that's
and it was a way to blackmail her into stopping her research into nanofibers. Yeah. Him. It's supposed to be a him.
But that was the thing when they said they couldn't lie, and I was like, well, you're showing this countdown to act as if that's your countdown to death.
Yeah, it's kind of a
they were kind of lying.
Lie?
Yeah, they were kind of lying. For being, I guess,
like logically, that's a lie. Like I'm just,
it's a little bit different. It's not that they can't lie. It's that I didn't like that part in the TV show. Where the conversation that the guy was having with the aliens, like, oh, I only now started to mistrust you, right? So the aliens, the aliens messed up. Like it wasn't the aliens in the book that let them destroy the boat. Like
Boat.
the humans won,
Yeah.
right? They got a victory over the aliens in that.
That part
So
didn't make
the
a lot
the
of,
lying. It's not that they can't lie. It's that they've evolved as a species to the point where their thoughts are transmitted telepathically.
gotcha.
So they can't hide their thoughts.
Some of that was a little weird because
Which
you know,
technically is, you can't lie. But what you're thinking is broadcast.
they've been talking to Jonathan Pryce's character, from what we can tell, for a pretty long time. Like, they've been in contact for a while.
Yeah.
And it was really weird to me that it was this random. There's a lot of convenient elements of the show where it was just like, that literally just happened because the plot needed it to at this specific moment. But it was like when they find out, like, oh, you lie, and he's like, yeah, sometimes or whatever, and then they're like, no, we're not talking to you anymore. I'm like, you just now figured that out.
It's not in the books. It's not in the books.
Yeah, well, it's like you just now.
They get into the whole they can't lie thing in book 2, but yeah.
And so it's like, and that's, man, that's
you've been talking to him for this long,
Yeah.
and this is the first time you're realizing that humans can lie. Yeah, it was dumb. It was really stupid.
It just, and that's why, like, there's certain things in the show in particular, just like removed from the books. There's stuff in the show where you're like, it's just leaps in logic. Like even with the stuff with Will later on, where they're like, oh, well, they'll just rebuild him. I'm like, how do you know that?
Yeah, that was a stretch.
How do you know? How do you know? Like, don't get me wrong. The idea of that and the idea of where that would eventually take the character, it's very interesting.
Like Hattori is pointing out, it's probably explained in the later books, but they didn't explain it in the show.
Yeah, so but it's weird because they just, Liam Cunningham's character is just like, oh, they'll rebuild him if they get him. You're like, what? Be like, how do you know that, dude? Like, you that was there are stuff, again, like I said, there's stuff I like in the show. Unfortunately, they don't want to take the time to make it make sense. Mm-hmm. And I understand that, like, maybe in the books it's explained, but if it's there, you need to find a way to make it work before you introduce it to me, because I'm just like, yeah, I mean, I guess, but it's like you're basically they were risking billions of dollars on, oh, well, maybe they'll do that. It just
I loved all of the set before that moment. Like, oh, those rebuild his body. I loved the stuff that Liam is the best character in the show. Liam Cunningham. I loved his rationale of, like, oh, this guy's perfect for the job because it's possible that he'll be sympathetic to the aliens. That'll guarantee that they'll pick him up. It's like, oh, like, I loved his character is so just brutally logistical. I love his character.
When he was talking and he was like, all of them are still worried about like finances. He was talking to Jen about all that. And it was like, they're worried about finances. They're worried about all this other stuff. He's like, I'm looking for this, like, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, we need, like, the solution now. Like, what is actually going to work? What can we do with what we have? Yeah. And it goes back to one of the central themes of it, that it's like, if one of us survives, we all survive, which is like, that's like where his mind is at. Like he kind of fully encapsulates, like, that concept. And then what's that other?
His best line was the whole, like, oh yeah, this cryo sleep stuff. It's for me. I'm gonna be kept in hyper sleep. I'm gonna wake up once a week, fix all of your mistakes, and then go back.
Oh, he's like, go say hello to my mother and go back to sleep.
Oh yeah, go. I'm gonna be woken up once a month, fix all your mistakes, go see the game, and then be put back under.
Yep. And that's the stuff that I think is, like, cool. It's like, there's a lot of tech that they're using in the show that is, like, right on the edge of, this could be possible. We could easily comprehend this being a thing, and you don't necessarily have to tell me the exact science behind it. Like, it's enough
sleep
to be
has been it's a science maybe for a while.
I'm not. It's there, like, leaps in logic. They have to be reasonable. That's all that I think.
Yeah.
You really need to look for. Like, you've got to make me believe it. And being like, oh yeah, we've figured out cryosleep. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Like, I you don't have to exactly explain how you got there. It's a lot different than the leap in. Well, they'll rebuild him.
Yeah.
There's differences
I
there.
think there was a conversation in the show where they're like, well, based on what we've learned, because they did read all the logs.
Oh,
because it's based on what we've learned from
yeah.
them. It's likely that they'll have the technology to do this, but
I
they needed
think-
it needed to be a lot clearer. I 100% agree.
Yeah, I needed either like Jonathan Pryce's character or Rosalind Chow, who played Yewin Jia, or however you say her name.
Yawin Chia.
Yeah,
That's
so
how they say it in the audio.
the one of those two characters, that conversation needed to happen early on in the show with one of the aliens. Of like,
Yeah.
hey, don't like, and this is me just riffing on this. It's like some sort of conversation about like, almost, well, I'll never get the opportunity to see you because you're 400 years away, and then being like, well, we have the technology to potentially make that happen. Just give me like a little something that when Liam Cunningham's character says that, like, there's a connection, a dot connection there. Of some, you set that up for something that pays off a little bit later.
Yeah,
Because
it felt like a payoff that had not been set up. Yeah, like this could have been really cool if you'd played your hand.
I'm trying to think.
Can I talk about my biggest issue I had with it?
Yeah, for sure.
The biggest issue I had with it was the ship scene. I thought that one was for me the biggest.
Oh, when they launched
suspension of disbelief
with the nukes.
The oil tanker,
the canal. Yeah.
Oh,
the
with
oil tanker.
the razor.
Yes, in the sense that not the nanofibers and all that. I'm fine with that, but in order to receive the data, their plan was to use the nanofibers to obliterate everything and everyone.
Okay. So this is the best. Yeah, they needed to.
That's a good point.
Look, the execution was really good in the TV show, but the conversation when they're discussing the plan in the books is fantastic. They're talking about this is essentially a hostage situation, except the hostage that they have is data that's on a computer or a storage device. So if we go in with troops, we'll probably kill them all, but they'll have time to destroy the data, right? And so they discuss a lot of things, and the solution is if we use nanofibers, even if it does end up slicing through the computers, that could easily be reassembled. You can recover data that way. And so like they have this big long conversation about the most practical solution. And it's actually Benedict Wong's character who comes up with the idea to slice it up.
I don't think that's a good conversation solution, because if you slice it up and then you're on an oil tanker surrounded by water, and then if it catches fires, I mean, there's so many different ways
they have stuff there to immediately put out the fires. Like it's a really good conversation.
Oh, okay, all right.
So the problem is that the show is just sort of like when it comes.
Well, I mean, the problem is that it seems like
the nanofibers basically have like no thickness too. So like even if it cut straight through like the data, you could piece it back together and still read it.
So that makes a lot of sense. That you be okay. All right.
They're willing, like they're desperate. Like we'll go pick up all of the pieces of the ship and try and find it.
That makes sense. I think that they definitely. Okay,
it's glossed over.
It's glossed over, and they that's the problem with, I think, the show in particular is just like it does seem like they just waste a lot of time on stuff that's not important. Which goes back to an earlier criticism, Joseph, where you're like, there's all of this like interpersonal drama that's just taking up way too much time. And the stuff that maybe they needed to focus on, like the stuff with Jen and her boyfriend, could have been, I think, handled better, because it's like he's like involved in this horrific thing. Augie knows about it. There's kind of a conversation with Jin and Augie about it.
That whole thing lasted like 3 episodes. You're like, wait, you guys still haven't talked? Like,
yeah, it's so.
Why are we dragging this out?
There's a lot of that. I think like if I was to really go back and comb over the show, I think I could come up with a lot of things that are just like, okay, why did this happen?
Yeah.
Why is it working out like this? I mean, we're scratching, in a lot of ways, we're scratching the surface of it and just hitting some of the more, I think, the more major issues.
I would highly recommend reading the books, because watching the show, I was clearly filling in gaps, and I had a much better time just because I liked the book so much. But it definitely has its issues for sure.
And you're gonna get you're gonna get that with like any adaptation. I think the biggest thing with an adaptation is that you've got to be able to decide, like, no, this is actually really important. And I wonder if I really do wonder if one of the things that hurt the show the most is the fact that they decided to mess with the way that the characters the differences. Because there's stuff that I don't.
I mean, from a show perspective, though, it's not the worst idea, because I'm like the main character is only the main character in book 1, and then he's not in the series anymore.
Right.
And then the main character, and then there's a different main character for book 2, and a different character for book 3, right? Mm-hmm. That works in a book. That's harder to do for a TV show. So I understand the desire and the purpose behind the choice. It just wasn't executed well.
Right. But the thing is like, you need, if you're gonna do that. So the main character disappears. Is that the idea, that like you just don't?
I don't know. I haven't read book 2 yet,
okay.
but it's just a different main. It's because he's served his purpose.
I think Hattori that's what he was talking about in. I think he might have mentioned it in the troll room. But like if that's the case, like, you need to do that with. I mean, like, I don't think I would go, oh, he just disappeared for the show, because I'm just gonna be like, really, guys, like that. He's just, we don't see him anymore. Like, you need to do something more shocking, like you did with Jack at that point.
Yeah,
like,
sure,
you want to do kind of like, because I feel like D&D, like, they were trying with this to relive a little bit of that, like Game of Thrones. I mean, it's pretty clear with like half the cast essentially being from the show.
Yeah.
It's almost like this Glory Days thing.
Well, yeah.
And the thing that's weird about it, right, is that you have the moment with Jack in the 3rd episode. And so you're supposed to get this like shocking death. You have some more shocking stuff with like the boat, which is fine. But then it was like I was saying before, where the show sort of like the 8th episode happens, and then it's just sort of like it's over. And I was like, you couldn't have given us like like, because that was the thing about, okay, so like season 1 of Game of Thrones, for instance, right? Like, I think
it ends with a banger.
Yeah, it goes.
It ends with pulling the entire rug and the table out from underneath.
Yeah, if you don't know anything about Game of Thrones and you're watching this, show about knights and betrayal and all this stuff, and there's rumors and whispers of things from the old world, and then at the very end, it's like, oh, dragons are real, and you go, dragons are real, and it's like the implication of that on the entire show, it changes everything. Like, despite where Game of Thrones goes, like, it's a topic for another time. But
it's a long topic.
With this, and like maybe that's just my expectation getting in the way, but they should understand at this point, like, that is something that is going to get people talking about the show. Like, I'm not sure. As interesting as like some of the stuff is that happens in the show, like, I don't know if I really have. I'm not going to be like, guys, like, you have to check this out. Like, you
gotta check out 3 parts. Okay, would it have been different if it was a weekly release? I don't understand Netflix. They're stupid.
I don't.
If you had to sit on this mystery the whole time, like, hey, what is going on with this countdown, and you were able to have a water cooler moment and talk about the show every week and build up hype for it, what is wrong with Netflix? Okay. I got to rant for 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Their show, they have an anime show, Delicious in Dungeon. It's a 20-minute comedy anime that gets a weekly release.
Yeah.
But 3 Body Problem and Avatar, they're like the 2 most expensive shows Netflix has ever made. They're dumping all at once.
It's weird, right?
I hate the binge model. It makes no sense.
I don't really get it either. Maybe they just, it makes me think with certain shows that they're just unsure of their reception. Because and here's the thing:
In
is like
hindsight,
Netflix,
though, I'm glad they dumped Avatar because that was garbage, and I
Yeah.
did not want to come back to that every week.
the thing about Three Body is that what they probably needed to do, because this is what they did with Arcane. Yeah, it's not Netflix, but it's what they did with
Yeah.
Andor as well. Is that they released them in threes. And
That could have helped.
I think
Yes.
if you were going to do it at the very least with Three Body, you needed to release the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And then you could do a weekly release, because I don't
Or
think
make a better episode 1.
and 2, because I don't think if you had released episode 1, people would have been like, I don't know, guys. Like, and then if you had done it
Maybe
again the
spend
following
less
week-
time with scenes of college students in the bar and get to the plot.
Yeah, and because there's these moments of like interesting stuff where you know the stuff in was it like Maoist China, that whole opening
Yeah.
I think is done well. Even the stuff where her daughter kills herself. There's a lot of these like intrigue, because you're supposed to be building, and
Yeah, well, that's what the book does. The book opens with, I was trying to say suffragettes. That's the wrong thing. The struggle session. The book opens with the struggle session on a bang, like, wow, this is brutal, and then it's, I'm a Chinese cop and I'm trying to solve these murders.
Yeah.
A bunch of scientists keep dropping dead, and you're like, I'm okay. What's going on, baby?
which is
Also,
yeah.
Benedict Wong gave a great performance, but
I like
his
him.
character is much better in the books.
Mm.
He's a lot more grizzled and grumpy, and I loved it. And he was too nice. He was too nice in the show.
Yeah, I could see that. Maybe they felt like
same.
with Liam Cunningham's character that they needed a little bit
Yeah,
of, you know what
yeah.
I mean?
He kind of took on some of his grunge.
Yeah.
But Mm.
That's the problem with the way that some of these shows, like, they're not, you know, back in the day when you had to, like Lost, for instance, for
Sure.
all of its faults, Lost had to do something to make you go, or to do some stuff with a lot of the episodes where it's like, okay, I have to come back next week. I have to come
Yeah.
back. And to be honest, that's probably in a lot of ways the inception of the mystery box model.
Yes, it is.
Now, I think he did it with Alias as well, but like Lost, I think Lost is a much better like flag point as far as like everyone was, I say everyone, but like people were hooked on that. It was the thing that started making people do these sort of, oh, we have to put a sting at the end of the episode to make people be willing to come back for the next one. And it works. Regardless of how you feel about it, it works with people.
Yeah.
And this show just didn't have that lore at the end of episodes. Even with the binge model, it would be like, I have to watch the next one. I have to watch the next one. Now, I know you binged it, but I told Joseph, like, this is not a criticism of the show. I just had a very long week last week, so I was overtired, and so I'd start like an episode and I'd like fall asleep and be like, crap, I gotta start it over again. It happened to me a couple times.
dude, I had so much homework to do last week. If I hadn't gotten sick, I don't know if I would have finished.
Yeah, and that's I didn't hate it. Again, I'm kind of mild about it. Like, it's enough that
Yes.
and the end of the show, those last few episodes were enough for me to be like, okay, I'll give the second season a chance.
Yeah.
When it comes out, like, I'll definitely watch the second season.
I think this ending on the setup of the wall facers was a pretty good hook. Like, that's the best part of the show,
It's interesting.
concept wise.
Yeah, I still think that I think the show's one of the biggest weaknesses is that they're hitting these plot points, and I'm wondering if they went with the assumption that people have read the books versus like, we need to introduce everyone to the things that are going on in this, because it's just like, oh, he's going here now. It's like, why is he doing that? And it's like, oh, he's a wall like, he's doing what? Like, he now has an entourage and has to think of ways to defeat the aliens. Like, that's like his goal. Like, it
I like it.
it's I understand. I just it's less of that and more of being like, okay, why? Okay, he obviously is going to say no, and then it's like, okay, well, they're after him now. But if he
Well,
okay, so,
the reason that they gave him the position is because he was the only one that the aliens had tried to assassinate
yeah,
directly, and so like, okay, well, they must think he's important, so
but
maybe he has the solution.
it's so weird because if the aliens are keeping tabs on him, like we've talked about, he hasn't been doing anything. So if they had just left, just left him alone,
it's because he had the conversation with Yao and Sia.
Oh, but it didn't matter.
I know.
He just went back to sleeping around with everybody and smoking weed.
Yeah.
Like that was all he was doing.
Yeah.
They actually, it's why it's so weird. Is like they got him into that, and I can understand
if he that my biggest what would have made the show better is when Jin gets involved. It's like, okay, how do we solve this project? So, well, let me get all my friends and we'll think about it. Like, let me make because all of these naysayers, you have all these people on your team and they're not even trying to solve the problem. Well, let me get all my friends back together and we'll do this. That would have been much better.
Yeah, it could have made a lot more sense in that regard because like not only
and then he would have been involved in the plot.
But he is
a bit.
He is and he's unbelievably lucky that skateboarder showed up right when he did.
Yes.
Dude, that made me. I was like, you've got to be. There were a couple things. I can't remember what the other one was, but there were a couple things in that last episode where I was just like, really
convenient.
Like, and it's just like it all. And then that poor girl. Like, dang, man. And I can understand like something like that happening that sort of wakes him up, and gets him more motivated for whatever reason. Like there are character elements in the ways that you can develop his character that gets him to the place where he finally steps up. Like he can be the reluctant hero who finally steps up to try to like solve the problem. And I like the idea that him and Benedict Wong are like connected, and then he's got his like liaison who does all his travel. That stuff's there's a lot of stuff in there that I'm like, I'm into this.
Yeah, the scene with his secretary guy was fantastic. It's like, well, who are you? It's like, I'm your head of whatever.
Yeah,
but I said no to the problem. Yes. So what are you doing here? I'm your head of whatever. It was like, that was a great scene.
There are little things like that, and that's what I'm saying is like the show does show you some interesting character stuff every once in a while. It's like, but it's not until it's like loaded at the end of the season on those last few episodes, and so it's really frustrating because like
for how much time they'd spent on the characters instead of the story, it's shocking that you didn't care about them until but you're
weird.
right,
it's weird. And like I even with Jin and Will, and I'm thinking to myself like, okay, it took forever.
Long.
It's so annoying it took so long, but you finally get to the point where like she finds out how he feels, and there's this like struggle there or whatever.
But his brain is already out of his body.
Yeah. Bro.
Can't tell him that I want to bang him.
But the this idea that like she still has this essentially like this hope that like
it was silly.
They can eventually come together, and like keeping the audience connected in that way. And now again, like I think there's problems with it because it took way too long for them to kind of get to this point. And then I don't really know what they're doing now with Will, because the assumption is that he's just done, and then like, oh well, it's over. But like I know there's two ways this goes, right? And I know after having sat through hundreds of hours of television and movies that you have either completely ruined that plot point and it will never go anywhere, or he's going to show back up. But I think and the thing that's annoying is that like they're probably going to try to go for a surprise reveal. But I think it would have been way more interesting if she still just had that hope. You know what I mean? And it was like she's kind of stuck on that.
Well, maybe he's out there, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it does kind of work with the theme though. If he never shows back up, which I think he's going to.
I do too, yeah.
But if he doesn't show back up and it was just a failure, like it does kind of work into the theme of the story.
I agree. I don't disagree.
Okay, that sucks, but.
And it's like that's the way that it is, right? The whole idea is like if one of us survives, we all survive. Like that was a failed attempt. I guess it's just the way that it played out for me. I was like, it doesn't feel like a satisfying end to that that like development with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, oh well.
There were some other things that really that bothered me. Like this show wasn't like super woke, right?
Yeah,
But there were times where it was like, hey, we're checking off some boxes. Did you notice? And then they would move on, and it had nothing to do with the plot, and it never came back up again.
Oh, like
in episode 1, the two girls are talking. Oh, I just visited my doctor and got my prognosis. Oh, what did he say? You big idiot! It was a she. Your doctor was a woman. And then it's not important.
It's
it
funny how
never
they
comes
act like
back up.
That's still a thing too. Like people
oh,
actually think that or say that.
What?
Benedict
That
Wong.
people actually care. You
Yeah.
know, one way or the other, if their doctor's a male or a female.
Or Benedict Wong's son
Having a
who
boyfriend
I'm pretty sure is not in the books. Like, I don't know. He's supposed to be this just uncaring, grizzled, hard-boiled detective. His character is wonderful in the book. I love his character in the book. And he's like, I have feelings, and I'm nice to my gay son. And you're like, okay, but
Kinda
what
nice.
did that add?
He's actually, and what's funny is like he's kind of a good dad. Like he basically he takes care of him. He works really hard. He tries to point him in the right direction and encourage him, but then like his son comes that thing and he's like, this isn't gonna work. He's like, is this all there is? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, he gave you a home, food,
Yeah.
you play video games, you have the opportunity to try to make it on your own. Like, bro, I don't know what's the problem here.
It was an okay character moment, but what did it add to the narrative?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing. I just
it
don't
adds
know.
It adds to Benedict's like his character, but like as far as like the story is concerned, it doesn't really do it. Like, I don't think him being a good father is necessarily
You know
a
what?
big
No.
deal with
Oh
him
my
and
gosh.
Saul.
No,
Like, I
no,
don't-
no. You know what
Doesn't
it
really
is?
Huh?
It's his gay son who starts his little project and ends up rescuing Will.
Oh, bro.
That's it.
Oh no!
I
I don't know. I haven't read all the
Totally gonna
books.
do
I
that.
want to.
I think there. I wonder if they'll go. With
I didn't
the-
think I'd have to read all 3. Okay.
It's probably not possible. You don't think that the whole like see, now I can't remember what they're called, but the weird alien technology that can't affect Will's pod at all, can it?
No, they can't
okay.
do like anything physically. No.
Okay, so it's just like you're right.
Well,
I don't know what they're gonna. I don't know what
They
they're
also
gonna do
said
with that.
they could send more in the future. They started off with 2.
Yeah.
So
even I was thinking, if it's 400 years, right, and it's going
they
to
could
take
send
them
someone out to
200
grab him.
years to get there, and that in any way, like in 100 years, they could probably send someone else much faster. And number one, I was like, well, why don't if you can do it faster in 100 years than sending him now, and you can do that, right? Why not just focus all your energy on that to make that faster? Well, instead of doing that in 100 years, let's cut that down to 50 or 20 or whatnot. And then second, so it seemed a bit unnecessary just based off of that line. Although I get the risk of impeding doom coming, and so you want to go ahead and get something going. I do understand that, but as far as with them actually sending Will, I guess if there's time dilation, wouldn't a person hardly age at the speed relative to Earth?
Oh, bro, I don't know.
And due to that same time,
That's only if you're traveling at near the speed of light.
Right, and they're trying to. But
they're trying to get to like.
They were trying to get to 0.1% of
0.1%
of speed of light. Yeah, that you don't get time dilation at those speeds.
Yeah, man, I don't know.
The aliens have just continued to mess with their science. That's what I don't understand. It's like they took out all the technology in Wage Plane at the end, right? They basically shut everything off, and it just seems like they'd be so effective.
Oh
at,
yeah, they
like,
could just turn off the rocket, right?
Yeah.
No. So they can't affect anything like physically.
But they mess
But they
with his
do.
they mess with Wade's plane. Like they shut it off.
Oh, I don't know. That was kind of silly, but
So because that's the thing is like that's why that's why I'm like confused
yeah,
about
I'm thinking in book terms for sure.
right. I'd have to think about anything else that they did, but like if that's why I was confused about how it would be possible for them to even like fight back at this point, because if this thing's essentially omniscient, and it can like it constantly knows so much of what's going on around the world, and she tells Wade at the end, the one alien tells Wade at the end of in the last episode that's like we're always going to be in the room before you get there, and I'm just like, man, I understand this idea of like fighting back, and I like the idea that it's like the human race is going to kind of do whatever it takes against like a common enemy, or at least what they believe to be a common enemy. There's a lot of, like I'm saying, there's a lot of really cool stuff in the show. There are just moments where I'm like, hang on.
I think you could have probably worked it better if if they would have done something to get around the aliens, in a sense, to where they speak in code that the aliens don't know.
I thought they were going to
I thought that was the point.
They just need, no, it's just in every cabinet meeting they just need to play two truths and a lie.
Well, but you have like the idea too now of like with the Neuralink stuff that
Elon
that he's working with.
Wait, I said that as a joke, but that could actually work.
Well, that's
yeah,
the
I was
thing.
gonna say that
If your lies are super obvious, you're like, oh, I still suck my thumb and I poop my pants, and I think that the plan should be this. that could actually work.
But I thought that the idea of what they were looking for, like, because there's I can't remember what episode it is, but like Wade comes up with this idea, like the idea essentially that's like, oh, we need to be able to, they can't hear our thoughts or whatever. So if they came up with the ability to essentially like read minds, like some sort of
like the aliens can kind of do, like that hive mind.
That's kind of and that I was thinking, oh, it could be a really interesting, and again, maybe this is me going in like the way that I would want it to go as like a sci-fi thing. That it's like you have that kind of stuff. Will makes it. Will doesn't do this whole like, oh, he's probably dead thing, but they actually do send him off. And I was hoping the season was going to end with him essentially like waking up, but like you don't see anything,
Yeah.
And again, it's my brain going like, what's the stuff that's going to keep me attached to the show moving forward? That those little bits of like, oh, actually, I am kind of interested to see what happens with Will now that he's like 400 years away from them, and potentially going to have to like interact with the aliens.
Right.
Like he's in this.
What if they had another female doctor? Would that do it for you?
That would send it over for him.
He wakes up and he's in a woman's body.
The aliens are women? I was prejudiced the whole time.
Yeah. And but even the idea of like, okay, like since the show is already taking like a ton of liberties, at this point, why not take the liberty to be like, hey, why don't we like discuss Neuralink and the possible implications of people being able to read each other's minds? There's stuff that you can do. You've got the sci-fi show.
Talking about liberties. Oh man, the scene that pulled me out when they're like, okay, we were making all these plans and we need to rely on our world leaders, and then they show the clip of Joe Biden, and I was like, we're screwed.
Oh, not only that,
it's over.
You will never convince me that the UN was going to come up with like the plan that saved humanity. Like not in a million years was that going to be the case. It was just so
2-second clip of Joe Biden though. I was like, oh man, we're screwed. This is over.
You just had to put, they had to put it in there.
Why would you want to, like date the show though?
That was actually that was one of the problems that I had with House of Usher. Is that they make
was that good?
I liked it quite a bit. There's an episode towards the end where they make some modern references that are not going to age well.
I watched the first episode with my wife, so I forced my wife to watch. I haven't seen all of his shows.
Okay.
the guy who made it.
Yeah. His name's
I,
slipping my mind
haven't
right now,
seen I haven't seen The Haunting or whatever, but I absolutely love with a passion the a Midnight Mass.
Oh, gotcha.
That's the only one I've seen. So I forced her to watch that, and then when Usher came out, I was like, my wife is a English major and she loves that kind of stuff. So I was like, it's a Poe adaptation. Let's watch this. We watched the first episode, and I was like, this is really good. And then episode 2 opens with an orgy, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
So yes.
I don't think we're gonna keep watching the show.
Yeah. That episode in particular is quite.
Why would you do
scandalous.
that?
But the ending of that episode is
Gotta subvert your expectations.
crazy. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny because that's
Thought
the
you were
most.
getting a mystery.
That's the most like the word that comes to mind is like titillating or whatever, but like that's the first time he's ever done anything like that in any of his shows.
Yeah, no, that's that. Like I knew he hadn't done any.
But
nudity in his
it's
movies.
very it's still very like in that
Flanagan. That's the name.
Flanagan, yeah, Mike Flanagan. He does a lot of he goes a horror route with it, like he goes real hard with it.
Yeah,
Um,
the first episode was
and
gripping.
Yeah, I think like if one way or another, if you manage to get past that, like I think the show is really, really good. I was watching somebody else. I had this conversation with a friend of the show, Zax. He had some people on discussing it, and someone I
Dax
don't
is a
remember.
cool guy.
I don't remember who was on there, but they were like complaining about the monologues in Mike Flanagan's shows, and is like that they're terrible.
That's the best
and,
part.
I know, and I'm over here like, bro, no, that like he really brings out. Because there's that one in Midnight Mass that's really, really good.
Which one? What are you?
when
There's
they're
so many.
When they're sitting on the couch.
Oh yeah.
And
they're describing the afterlife, right?
Yeah.
Or the moment of death.
And you know he's got one in this one towards the end where one of our main usher, who's like he's like the head of the family, he kind of discusses like essentially his worldview.
Yeah.
And it's excellent. It's very, very well done.
I guess he's a really good writer.
He is, and like that's the thing, man. Is like I don't know if we've got anything else to say about Three Body Problem, but like especially now watching Shogun, having seen The Gentleman earlier this year, oh my gosh, dude, I haven't seen it yet, but the House of the Dragon season 2 trailer dropped today.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I saw like a little.
They're not waiting for Rings of Power season 2 announcement.
No, they're just they're gonna be on. They're gonna be on season 3.
You gotta hold the line. Wait for them to announce Rings of Power season 2.
Oh, the Acolyte. It's going up against the Acolyte this year. So that comes out around the same time as House of the Dragon season 2. So we'll see. Arcane season 2 comes out this year. There's a lot of stuff.
Dude, okay. This year has been
we'll
a banger. After the drought that was last year, where the only mediocre entertainment we got was a live action adaptation of Pirates. And what was the anime show?
One Piece.
One Piece. Yeah, that was like there weren't any good movies, and that was okay.
Godzilla -1 was excellent. I don't know if
okay, but that doesn't count. That wasn't Hollywood.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, after the absolute drought that was last year, it's March, and there's been Dune Part 2, which that should have been last year, right? But
yeah,
Dune Part 2, The Gentleman, Shogun has just blown my mind every week. I will sing. I love Delicious in Dungeon. It is the funniest show I've ever seen.
Okay, I need to check it out.
You recommended that other anime. I watched the first.
Yeah, Ninja Kamui has been really good.
I've only seen the first episode, but it was good. There's just too many things to watch right now. I'm like, there's good stuff to watch. Like heck, I'm gonna watch the Acolyte.
Yeah. There is quite. I've been pretty happy with this year so far. It's nice to have some television, and I enjoyed Dune. I've got criticisms.
Oh yeah, so do I.
I most of it is not book related because I just again it's like I'm not. People are complaining about.
I have book criticisms, but it was a good movie.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with it is like there's like a lot of the character payoffs and a lot of the character dynamics are really shallow. I'm just
Which are
like,
those are book complaints,
right? So it's one of those things that's like that was the biggest thing because I meant to mention this earlier, but Dune is kind of an example of when your characters are kind of weak. If I'm not interested in your overarching plot, which I was with Dune, like I like what they did with it, where it's like Paul has
Part 2.
well, just in general, like Paul has fallen, his house has fallen, and he's in a way like he's on this essentially like this revenge mission, and I hope that they do eventually give us, is it Emperor or what's the name? What's the second book called?
The second book is Dune Messiah.
Messiah,
and then it's Children of Dune and God Emperor of Dune is 4.
So the next one, I would be fine with them having part 1 and part 2. Just call the next one part 3. Adapt the next book in a way that rounds this story out nicely.
It's a lot. That book's a lot shorter too, so you could do it in one movie.
Yeah, and because I need a conclusion.
Yeah.
Because
he's already written the script. He wants to do it.
Okay, so good. And the movie's made pretty good money considering its budget, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to do it. It's Dune is tough though because I think even from like not even with like mentioning the books, like the movie is kind of a tough sell. Like I know people that I work with where they're like, oh yeah, I thought about going or like watching the first one and going to see the second one, and I'm like, I know you well enough that you're probably not going to like this. Like it's just it is so sci-fi.
Yeah.
I've always been surprised when I showed part 1 to a bunch of what I would consider like my normie friends.
I've had a lot of normies that liked it.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I'm like. Maybe it's just like you were always into that kind of stuff. You just never really like it. It's something that piqued your interest that you probably always would have been interested in the harder sci-fi stuff. But I know a lot of people that were not. They just like weren't digging it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was happy with that. The Gentleman was so good. That's
fun.
something else that's coming out this year is the Ungentlemanly Warfare movie that Guy Ritchie's doing as well.
Yes.
Guy Ritchie, just put it in my veins, baby.
Exactly. That was the trailer. One of the trailers. It's the only one I remember from when I went to go see Dune.
I remember that one and the Monkey Boy one.
Oh, I didn't have that one in there, but that comes out in like a week or so. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it looks fun. Indian John Wick. Let's go.
Yeah, and but I'm looking forward to that. So like there is I'm with you. Like last year was so like if the rest of this stuff that comes out this year is like 6s, and now that's a 6 for me, not like the way that we typically do stuff. So like for me, a 5 is essentially average. Like because I don't know why we have this massive scale of like 1 to 10 when 7 to 10 is the only thing that really matters, and if you have anything lower than that, then it's just garbage. Like I want like a larger scale, or we need to like something needs to change. And Joseph will ask me numbers and like I'll give them to him, but I hate doing it.
I like a good 1 to 10 scale.
But yeah, like that's kind of how I feel. Is like if a 5, you're right in the middle. It's
you
like
can still enjoy a 5. Yeah,
you didn't do anything out of you didn't like screw up terribly, but you also didn't do anything that makes me feel like it's real praiseworthy.
A 5 is Pacific Rim. That is the perfect 5.
Sure, and
it's not a good movie, but you can watch it and have fun.
Exactly, because there's some stuff in it that I love
because it's robots punching monsters.
Yeah, it's that.
It's every Fast and Furious movie is a 5.
Well, I would say maybe the first 5 or so, and then it really starts.
I haven't seen the last one, so they go downhill?
The new ones are very bad. They are very
the
bad. Yeah,
really bad.
They gave up trying. Yeah. They really did give up trying.
And 5s also depend on personal taste. Like some people are going to like 5s more than others.
I'm with you because like there's stuff that I would give a 5 that I'd never watch again, and then stuff that I'm like, I like this, but I'm not going to tell you that it's like excellent, right?
What's your 10 that you never want to watch again, like Schindler's List?
Ooh. Man, I'd have to think about that. Because most of the time, if it's a 10, part of that is probably going to be being able to actually rewatch it.
Yeah.
Like, I think American History X is a really good movie, but I will never watch it again. Like, I think I've seen that movie like 2 or 3 times. And at this point, I'm like, no, I don't need to see it again. I don't know, though. A 10?
I really liked Sound of Freedom, and I don't want to watch it again.
Fair enough. Yeah, see, I would say Tokyo Drift's probably a 5. And I love Tokyo.
I liked Tokyo Drift. That one's fun.
Tokyo Drift.
That one's fun. That one knows what it is.
Yes, that one has like a specific like place in my heart, you know. But yeah, I'm trying to think of some other. I don't know if I would give it a 10, but I really liked All Quiet on the Western Front. Like, I think that is an.
I need to watch it. I need to watch it again.
I think it is
it yet.
Excellent movie. I think the themes, the story, like everything in it works really, really well. Like I could.
You're talking about the Netflix one, right?
Yeah. I could be argued. Like, if Joseph was to tell me, he's like, yeah, I think that movie's a 10, I'd be like, all right. Like, I'm not going to argue with you about it. But it's a movie
I never want to see it again.
Yeah, it's a movie that I probably would never watch again. Because it's rough. You know, like, it is not
heavy.
Yeah,
What's
that's very heavy.
That's how
okay.
Body Problem was
the reverse of the question though.
What really heavy, and I mean it continued those heavy themes throughout. And, you know, dark moments and everything, but it did lighten up some. But I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go back and watch this.
Well, the reverse of the question works too. What's your one that you'd watch any day?
Madam Web.
Like, you know it's filth.
No.
You know it's filth, but it's your kind.
Okay.
It's your kind of filth.
I'll give you
Madam Web.
You want to know what? I'll
you
call
like
it my
Madam Web?
I'll call it my
It's
guilty.
So bad, it's good.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, your guilty pleasure.
My guilty pleasure.
Sharknado.
One of my guilty pleasures is a movie from like, I think it's like 2007 or somewhere in that range, called Never Back Down. Have you ever seen it?
Oh, heck yes.
It is a massive guilty pleasure.
I
for me.
love Never Back Down.
You know.
You want to know what mine is?
Amber Heard is in that. You know, it's like.
Mine is a Disney Channel original movie called Cowbells.
Huh. That's the one with Ali Mashaka is in that, isn't she?
Yeah, they're spoiled heiresses, and their daddy owns a dairy processing thing, and he goes out of town, and they have to run it and learn responsibility. I love that movie. It's so bad.
Joseph, we should do a sub like series on here where we just go through old Disney Channel original movies.
Oh yeah,
watch them. Yeah. Oh, like
Let
there's.
us ruin your childhood.
I don't know if I would call it a guilty pleasure. There's a movie that I was obsessed with in high school. I've got it saved in my my like Amazon list, like the DVD of it. It's this movie called Airborne, about this kid who he's from like California, and he goes to live in like Michigan or somewhere like that. And he's a surfer, and he's got like nowhere that he can do any of that. And it's got like Seth Green in it. Like, this movie is like pretty old. I don't think it's technically a Disney movie, but Disney used to play it a lot. And it's sort of just like he's out of his like his normal world or whatever, and like
Jack Black too.
Jack Black's in it, and then there's like this. A group of bullies, and everybody rollerblades, and so like to prove his worth, he has to like beat all of these bullies in rollerblading. Dude, I loved that movie.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Another guilty pleasure would probably be the movie Grind.
I haven't seen that one yet.
That it's like a skateboard. It was this like little it's like skateboarding movie from back in the day.
I know of it. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I'm sure there's some other stuff that's slipping my mind. I feel like The Room at this point doesn't really count. Because it's gone beyond like it lives in another world. Like, you don't, yes, it's bad, but like it's just a different thing completely as far as I'm concerned. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
I just realized. Sorry, finish your thought.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just realized that a solution to one of the problems that you had with Three Body Problem would have been properly would have been fixed if they adapted the book properly, which is that episode 2 like didn't grip you at all, and it's because they really toned down Yao Wenxia's character. She actually murders her husband and another guy while she's at the Red Coast facility to keep the message she receives from the aliens secret.
Oh, so they just kind of drop. Okay, yeah, that's unfortunate.
Like it's nuts. She drops them off of a cliff.
And that could have been such an interesting thing for them to do, and then it goes full circle with her going.
That would have been
back
a great
there.
stinger at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Instead of just her saying, "Oh, come and I'll help you take over the planet," and then after that she goes and murders 2 people.
Yeah.
One of them is her husband, and she's carrying his child. The Jonathan Pryce is not the father. He's not supposed to be the father of her child.
But they pretty much, unless they're gonna like
he marries the guy who like takes credit for her work in the show.
Oh.
But it's supposed to be it was a mutual decision in the books, like because she can't have a name for herself, so he takes all the credit for her work, and they have a loveless marriage that it's just a marriage of convenience.
Well, that's
to give her status and to give him accolades, and they have a child, and she tosses him and the other guy off of the cliff.
Well, they could. That's so weird that they would have changed that. That like
it's
he
great.
just. Yeah.
I just remembered that and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't like that.
I would love. I mean, like it would be an interesting discussion to sit down with D&D and be like, so why did you? Like, if you could get an honest discussion out of them.
One question I was asked, so why was that one scene in episode 1 important about mentioning the female doctor?
But even
how did that enhance the series? Please sit down, tell me.
Yeah, I don't. It's that, and like what you're saying about some of the changes or things that they decided to leave out, and I could see them for whatever reason maybe wanting to bring some of that into season 2, but then like
they've already moved on into
she's dead,
book 2.
right? She's dead at this point. Like she is actually dead, even though they didn't really show
she's gone,
which is weird. Like man, and this is the thing is like I think D&D. I think people need to remember that like they did massively screw over Game of Thrones.
They did. And
like,
you can kind of see echoes of that here. Like I think it messed them up. Really, like because they were really good at adapting. They're not good writers. They were really good at adapting the books, and then they ran out of books, and were like they were doing an okay job, and then they just were like, okay, we want to be done with this, and they did a really bad job.
Yeah, and it just it progressed.
And you could tell when they're adapting Three Body Problem, it's really good, and when they're writing, it's not.
Yeah, and it's definitely, it seems like it's a mixed bag, which is interesting that it's like that's kind of where Joseph and I came out with the whole thing, where it's just like it's just kind of like, Joseph, what did you like? Because I don't know if you've mentioned a lot of like what you liked about the show.
I like the impending doom scene, or not scene, but aspect of hey, we got this alien race coming here, but they're not immediately showing up, but they're into the future. And I like the aspect of hey, communism was so bad for her that she was willing to
just sell out the human race.
Sell out the human race. Essentially,
I think my favorite scene might be in later books, but it was the conversation. It was the line that Will had when he was getting surgery to cut out the tumors.
Yeah,
and he's like, I had a conversation with the cancer, and I realized that they're not inherently evil. They're just looking for a place to stay. And it's like, okay, this is apparel. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. Which makes you wonder if like that's something, because I I've got all of these like thoughts going through my head about where they want to send the show. Even with the adaptation or no, like you're always gonna...
Joseph, I liked when the end credits hit.
The troll room whoopa.
But there's some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joseph.
No, so I like her like, hey, communism in my life has been so bad. This cultural revolution, I'm willing to betray the human race in order to um,
Yeah.
have some semblance of hope. That's how dire things were. I like the aspect of the aliens using what you thought was a video game system, like what Jack thought, right?
We didn't really talk
Although,
No, we didn't.
you can kind of pick up on that it's not exactly that, and
Yeah.
that aspect of it. I thought that was really interesting. I like the ideas of the Sophons, although they do seem a bit OP to me, but I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the aliens can implant, visions into people's minds, or kind of make them see what they want to see. So you kind of question that illusion, like, is this reality? Is this not? Which hinges on, kind of touches the notes of misinformation and disinformation. There's so much that's being put out there in the news these days. It's hard to know what is true and what isn't true. So the idea of propaganda and illusion and stuff, I like that aspect too. I like, the characters I mentioned earlier.
The best character that gets killed off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was such a weird.
Oh,
that was a weird
I
choice.
didn't really
No, it's even
understand the
worse. It's
importance
even
of
worse
that.
because it undermines the whole story of. I'm sorry, I forgot. I hated this. That, they were trying to recruit
Jen.
him and Jin
Yeah.
into their organization. They were grooming them, and then completely undermined it by killing her best friend.
Yeah, like she wasn't gonna, and then like they're like, oh, sorry about like what's her?
It was completely
is it
counterintuitive.
Tatiana or whatever her name is. She's like, oh, so sorry about your friend, and it's like, bruh, how, like.
Yeah, Tatiana is not a character
Um,
from the book. She's just made up.
Oh. I kind of like her as far as like what she's used for in the show. Is she's basically just like death. Like she shows up and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I kind of appreciate that for what they were going for. But that whole plot point really was messy. Like that's kind of where.
And even his death wasn't satisfying. It was awkward. It was like, oh, he gets stabbed in the neck, but the guy is like there and he doesn't see the glass crack, and it wasn't like executed well. You couldn't. It was hard to understand what was going on. And I'd read the books.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what. I mean, with so many characters, I don't know what I would have. They're all kind of interchangeable at that point. Like.
Yeah.
You could have.
It's interesting comparing this to Shogun, where you could probably.
Can we
say
talk about
there's-
Shogun now?
Oh yeah, we
There's
can
just
talk.
as many characters versus with this, like how it's handled, but like handled so much better in Shogun versus in
Especially
Three
this episode too, with the guy who gets killed off,
Yeah.
who you're introduced in this episode,
bro.
and you care more about him.
You want to know? Okay, so spoilers for Shogun, because there's no other way to do a comparison for this. I felt a bigger emotional impact when the gardener dies in episode 5 of Shogun, like off screen, than I did when they killed, what's his name, Jack in episode
Jack
3
Rudy.
of, yeah.
I was upset that they killed him because he was the best character, but I didn't care.
It wasn't the same kind of impact. Like I was
He was just the most fun to watch on screen.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine about Shogun recently and trying to without spoiling as much as possible. I was like, bro, the show, it just is written in a way where even these like minor deaths have a big impact because of what it means for the main character. And it helps that the acting is good, and that they don't waste time when characters are on screen. And it's so funny if you kind of like compare and contrast Shogun and Three Body. I know they're very different shows from like the material that they're covering.
It's a great way to contrast.
Yeah, but
just the way that you're invested in it, though.
And the character,
the writing,
the
work.
characters. It's like they don't like if a character is on screen in Shogun, like it's for a reason. They're trying to continue to grow that character or show you aspects of that character, or like Blackthorn is like learning something about the culture, and it's funny because Shogun is like such a serious show, but it has these moments of levity like kind of built in as well.
It's
fun. And there's a lot of shows that don't know how to do that very well. Most shows, like Three Body, it has this kind of problem of like it's very serious, but sometimes it's really hard for me to take it serious because
Here's another perfect comparison when you're talking about the death of the character. Talk about in addition to that, contrast the effect that has on the main character. If you're comparing Augie to Blackthorn, right, the guy gets killed off, and it devastates him.
Yeah,
and the scene where he's putting a rock back in place.
Yes,
is the most brutal. Yeah. Like,
dude, it's
okay. It was this episode.
Episode
4?
5.
Episode 5.
Yeah,
episode 4 was actually brutal. Like visceral carnage.
Yeah.
But episode 5, I texted my brother and I was like, "This is the most brutal episode of Shogun yet," and it's all off screen.
Yep.
But the implications are horrific.
Yeah. It's very, very good.
And then you get Augie's character, and I forgot how much I hate her character in Three Body. She's genuinely a bad person. The way she screws over her company.
Yep.
And it's played off as altruistic. She's literally a thief. Also, she's trying to fix the water in Mexico, but she doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
She could do that better if she was still working for the company and say, "Okay, I'll do this for you, and we'll send 3 water filtration systems to Mexico." Where does she get the funds to keep making this?
Yeah,
doesn't make sense.
They should they should have figured out a way to they needed to make her character smarter in those situations.
Besides that, she was insufferable when she just wouldn't talk to people. She treated Saul like garbage, and then got mad when he had sex with other women. She wouldn't do it. She wouldn't.
And then
she didn't want anything to do with them. And then
they have the audacity at the end of the show to be like, maybe someone already does love you, and you're like, oh, okay.
No, please no, because she doesn't. That's not the kind of love you want. But in regard to the death, right? Not so much the death of her friend, but the consequences of the boat getting sliced up.
Yeah.
And seeing the carnage. You don't care about Augie at all. She just comes off as a spoiled brat.
Well, and yet the thing is,
I saw some people die, and one of them was a kid.
I saw a kid's leg.
Now I have the big sad. And then you get friggin' Blackthorn. Just.
Well, you're right. That's a really good comparison because unlike Augie, he learns from. It's like the consequences of his actions. He learns from that, and it's crazy because in comparison, like what happened with him is not nearly as bad as what she did. You know, you would think
she killed a lot of kids.
She went on like a bender for like an episode and a half or whatever, and then they just kind of forget about all that. Like she kind of goes, she's like, I'm leaving the country or whatever, and like blowing up all
No, the conclusion of that story arc is, I'm gonna do another thing that's bad, but we're gonna pretend that it's good. Like, imagine being that company, investing all of that money into this woman, and then having her steal from you.
Yep.
And in addition to that, completely screw you over.
Yeah, I think
that, and they did nothing. Like the whole show.
They just forget.
Her boss is the most understanding, nice guy there is. He's like, "Look, I know you're going through some tough times, so take a break, but we really do need to go back to work, pretty please." He's like, if you had a boss like that, I'm just going through all of my previous bosses. I would kill to have a boss like that. Okay.
They never. I guess the biggest problem. It's just another plot point in the show where like they didn't properly set it up. Like obviously, if they wanted that to work, he needed to be kind of like a terrible human being. Maybe he even needed to be the one.
But he was the best character. He was so nice.
Yeah,
he was nice to everybody.
He needed to be directly involved with like the murder of all of the people on that boat, like all the kids and everything, and then like that potentially gives her
all the materials were his. He gave the nanofibers to the government for free.
Right, and like maybe it's like they have that conversation.
She just invented it. Yeah. That wasn't her money.
They need to have like a conversation where she's like, I can't be involved in this anymore. I can't, and he's like either threatening her or doing whatever.
Yeah.
And then she had,
but he's just understanding in every scene.
And then she's like, screw you, I'm giving it all, it just blowing up the company.
female power.
Bruh, she would have.
I'm gonna go see my woman doctor.
Yeah, she would have had to like secretly leave the country and never come back at that point. I mean,
It's kinda
alien
what she
invasion
does.
or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's real goofy.
Shogun's so beautiful though.
Oh man, like it just keeps. It's been such a. How many episodes are there? Do you know? Like, how many? Is it 10?
I believe 10.
Of Shogun?
It's 10.
Okay, 10.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's been such a great build up to.
I know.
Episode 5.
We get 5 more weeks of this.
I know. I'm so happy with it. It's gonna be. Shogun is there's 2 other Well, The Gentleman for me is still in the running, because it's very different from Shogun.
Yeah, the Gentleman is fun.
Which is
Shogun
the
is
difference.
good.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Shogun is masterpiece.
It's Shogun is
The Gentleman is just dirty fun.
yeah. It's
The Gentleman is okay. You know when you were watching Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
And all anyone ever wanted was for Walt and Jesse to just get along and cook meth.
uh-huh.
That's what the Gentleman is.
It's kind of you're right. That's kind of what it's becoming for sure. And I like that.
It's just good.
The cast is so much fun. Like it's got such a great personality to it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's one of those shows that Netflix keeps around. Like they really need to do just like maybe 3 seasons. Try to beginning,
even
middle,
the
and
the
end,
brother, even
you know?
the brother who I
Oh.
hated for the first half of the show.
But he's so
They managed to
good.
bring you around, and you're like, okay,
What is
this
episode?
guy's really good.
Is it
And
episode? Is the chicken suit episode 1 or 2? Or
Chicken Suit's
is that the first
episode 1? Episode 1 ends with a shotgun,
Dude, that
which
episode
I
is so-
knew was
Joseph,
coming.
you haven't
was-
seen it yet,
was
right?
Pretty obvious.
Joseph, are you still there? Did we lose him?
His
He's
mic's
muted.
gone.
Okay, well, let's not spoil it because I don't think he's watched it yet. But
Yeah. I 100% saw that coming, but it was still satisfying for it to
the
happen.
the build up is
Yeah.
masterful. Honestly, it's like the way that it just keeps like building and building, and you're like, man, like is he gonna do it? And then you're like, oh no. But then
But man, he's such an idiot. He does
Oh,
so.
he is.
He keeps pissing you off.
Yep.
But you still you like him.
Yeah. And that's just like his character or whatever. Like they just unabashedly, that's what they decided to do with him, and I'm really
The gambling scene after that.
Yep.
I almost I threw something at my TV. I was like, no,
I know.
you moron.
I think my favorite episode is the 4th one. Which is
The car heist.
no, not the car heist. It's
That one kind of fell out of place to me.
It's the episode
was-
where they I don't know how to say it without spoiling it. It opens with a bunch of tourists running out of one of the Duke. It's not the main
Oh
character.
yeah.
You know what I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about? That episode.
That's yeah.
That episode's really good. It's really, really good.
The crazy old man one.
Yes, and his
Yeah.
son who has a very specific interest in collections.
A very specific taste.
It's so funny, dude. It's so funny. Yeah,
I kind of liked.
loved
Even though it was a big story, it was kind of fun to get semi-episodic episodes as well.
Uh-huh.
It was like, okay, this is the next adventure we're going on, and it was all connected very well. It felt like it was the same story, but it was fun to get a little bit of like old school weekly episodic runs. You know?
Yeah. I really, really happy with that show. Like minimum, it'll end up being like an honorable mention this year. Is just like, I mean, I'm already, it's like we were talking about, like I'm already happier with the direction that the year's gone as far as like media is concerned than where we were last year, and really maybe even the year before.
Yeah.
It's just been so solid already. I can't wait to see what we get the rest of the year. I mean,
The year before was
believe
bad because that was Rings of Power, but we also got House of the Dragon too to contrast it. So
yeah, there were still some good things. There were still a few good movies that were coming out. Because was that 2021, right?
I think it was.
22.
Or 22? Dune was 21, or was it 22? The first one, I can't even remember at this point. The last couple of years have
It
been
is a while. I
it's
don't
been
know.
blending together. There was some good stuff, but
last year.
it seems like we're headed for like a really strong year. Nosferatu is at the end of this year.
I still
Robert
need to watch
Eggers' new movie. So
The Lighthouse. I still need to watch that one. So.
that is an interesting one for sure. That is an art house film to its core.
I'm excited for Nosferatu though.
So yeah, well, man, we'll see. I'm super stoked about the rest of the year and where things are going, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we still don't know about, and of course we're still gonna have like a ton of stuff that it just doesn't look good to me. Like I've got like zero interest in Borderlands.
Oh man, that looks so bad.
I don't even know.
Beetlejuice 2, I guess. The Joker 2.
Oh, dude, the Joker.
Gladiator 2. There's a lot of 2s this year.
There's gonna be a lot.
The Karate Kid is getting another sequel as well.
Yeah. There's gonna be a lot of sludge this year, I'm sure.
The Lion King live action too, also.
Why, quote unquote, live action?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I don't know.
And we get Wicked Part 1.
Part 1.
Oh yeah.
They split it into 2 movies, or maybe 3. Who knows?
Oh, Lord. Yeah, that's talk about like out of my wheelhouse and like having like I can't even like feign interest in Wicked.
And Rebel Moon 2.
Oh, dude,
there's a lot of 2s.
Bro, I am so stoked for the Scargiver. I cannot wait for part 2 of that.
Yeah,
and we're getting the R-rated version of part 1 and part 2. So like he's releasing like 3 different Rebel Moon things this year, pretty close together.
Did you guys like Rebel Moon?
Oh God, no.
No.
Okay.
Terrible.
It's fun. No, it's bad, but it's fun to watch.
Oh no, I can't even give you that.
No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. My position with Rebel Moon is every criticism that anyone has ever said about the movie is 100% accurate and 100% true, and I had fun. It's kind of a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, we'll just have to agree to disagree, because that was a miserable experience for me. I can't with that. Like it, so much of that. It's just he can't write characters.
The slow-mo made no sense too.
No.
It would come on in the worst. You're like, why is it this scene?
they can't shoot her like ever. Like there's just it's
bad.
Oh gosh. But what a waste of Anthony Hopkins too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Hey, we have Anthony
apparently
Hopkins.
He's in the extended cut.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Which I'll probably I will watch it. What'll probably be is that I'll be playing like Helldivers and also checking out the extended cut of those movies.
6-hour version or whatever he said.
Yeah, just a lot of I can't at this point. I that was what, December? Like December feels like so long ago at this point. I can't.
I know, it really does.
It was December. It was December. 3 months ago.
I remember it.
I guess
most of it not making sense, and then just like things happening at like breakneck speed. And I think Joseph, you were the one that was saying is like things are happening really fast, but then everything's really slow at the same time.
Yeah.
Just
that's it.
And then like this the whole like plot doesn't make sense to begin with, because it's like, why does this massive why
do they care about this little town?
Yeah, this little town and their like wheat supply or whatever of everywhere in the world, like it just it logically it doesn't, like the whole like Seven Samurai, I don't think it upscales very well into like major sci-fi.
Yeah.
You like when you start going like onto other planets, and it just doesn't work right. It seems weird because like they shouldn't live, or like that little town should basically get nuked. They would be done, and it wouldn't take much to accomplish that.
That is correct.
So, but yeah, that comes out pretty soon. Is it April when it comes out?
No, I think it's June.
Oh, really?
It's in April.
I thought it was way sooner. Yeah, man.
Maybe you're right.
I think
unless they moved it, I have it in my calendar as April.
I think
you're right,
looking back on this year, like Avatar's going to be lucky that it came out this year, because there's going to be plenty of other stuff that is just going to be like, oh yeah, I remember when Avatar came out and it wasn't very good.
Oh, I hated Avatar.
Did you hear that?
I didn't finish. I couldn't finish.
Oh, you didn't finish it?
I couldn't. I
You didn't
started
miss
episode
much.
5 4 times, and I could not get through episode 5. It was so stupid.
They recast Zuko. They recast his sister.
Good.
Allegedly, I don't.
She's awful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
When did they announce that?
It was I don't know if it's 100% true. It was like a rumor that I heard online. People were reporting about it, being like, "Oh yeah, they recast her because she didn't fit the role properly or something like that." Which is like funny that they got through a whole season and then
She was so round.
Yeah, none of them really look like the counterparts from the show.
No, even the gymnast is like chubby.
Yeah, it's weird because all of those girls are like sticks, you know, more or less, and it's really interesting the way that they cast. And I get it, like you're not always going to be able to get 100% accurate with that. But it's like we were talking about with some of the other characters in it. It's just like weird casting that doesn't make sense for what was necessary for the characters. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's gonna be an interesting year.
Rebel Moon comes out the same week as Ungentlemanly Warfare, so that'll be a whiplash of an experience.
I think so.
Right.
That's cool though, because Ungentlemanly Warfare is something I will definitely go to the theater to see. Like,
I'm hyped.
Yeah, I will. I will.
It's got Henry Cavill. I'm seeing it.
Yeah, and the guy from Reacher is in it too.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah, I do too. I think he's gonna be quite the. I
hope he has a long future in Hollywood.
Me too.
Just
get him in those action roles.
He's not just a big buff guy. He can act.
Yeah.
Too. Oh yeah. Oh, he's in it.
That'll
be fun to see them together. Alan Rich.
Oh yeah. Alan Richman.
Also, he's a hardcore Christian.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
So I could definitely see him having like quite the future in because he's been around for a while. But like he's just now really like starting to get that momentum. But you're right. I want to see him in a lot of action movies because I think it's good to have your thing as an actor.
Just anytime you want to cast John Cena, just replace it with Alan Richardson. It'll be good.
Agreed. Yeah. Except for recently, because dude, John Cena has been doing some.
Oh yeah, well yeah, you don't want to put him in the roles he's getting now, but
it's weird. But like, yeah, he probably he probably could have been an interesting peacemaker. If they had put him in that role,
could have been great.
Among a couple different characters, probably would have made a good Rick Flag too. Honestly.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have apologized to China for thinking that Taiwan was a country.
Bro, I forgot about that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I know we didn't quite. Well, we might have to talk about Yaira another time. I just.
The live action.
Yeah, the live action thing that everyone was like overblowing. That it was just like, bruh. Like listen, we can get pretty into like the like autistic discussions on here, but like that was a level of like y'all need to go outside.
Yeah,
like,
look, it wasn't good, but it was an announcement for a comic book.
Yeah, it was for me.
Like for what it was like.
It came off as this, like something similar as if they did like a live action trailer for like a video game from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, the accent was
the acting was garbage, but the effect where they showed her flying actually looked pretty good.
Yeah, there's plenty of decent stuff in that for like what it was. I don't know what the expectations are always really weird for me on that. And I mean, like obviously, like cards on the table, like I've bought like every Rippaverse book. Like I don't care.
Yeah, I have them all.
If we were going to because I think Joseph, we were talking about, or like maybe you asked me about it, and I was just like, bro, I don't. What are we supposed to do with this? Like this isn't. I mean, first of all, it's like it's not. I feel like if we were to get on here and be like, we're gonna break down the Yaira trailer, it's just like. I don't know. Does anybody want that? Like,
it's
what
just
is that?
People talking. It's just exposition. It wasn't supposed to be a it's just an
It's a concept. As far as I'm concerned, it was kind of like a concept. They were
Yeah.
like, let's do this. We have some money. And I mean, to be fair, like from, if we want to get on the other side of things, like Eric gave jobs to people in the film industry when that whole thing was like shut down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
giving jobs to artists that haven't been able to work for a while, or not as in a studio. They've had to go indie.
so I mean, like say what
'Cause
you will
Hollywood
about him.
sucks.
Yeah, say what you will about him, but like he's doing a lot of stuff and he
Sure,
just
yeah.
he keeps going,
I'm excited to see where Rippaverse goes. I didn't love Isom 1. It was fine. It didn't, but it felt a little lacking. I really liked Isom 2. I felt it picked up the pace, and I haven't read. I have it, but I haven't read the
Alpha Core.
Alpha Core yet.
Yeah,
But I definitely
think-
ordered Yaira.
I think it's good.
Another indie comic I'm super excited about is The Lucent. It's
yeah, didn't you have that guy on your
Oh
channel?
yeah, he came on my channel.
Yeah.
Michael Bancroft. He keeps posting updates of it. It looks so friggin' good.
Well,
I'm hyped.
Joseph's got to get ready for work in the morning. I actually have to be up pretty
Yeah.
early too, so we're gonna close it out there. But technically, thank you for coming on again, dude. It is
Thanks
for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Feel free to, come on whenever, man.
Yeah, for real.
Well, I'll go
anytime
read the
you want.
next 2 books and then I'll correct myself. I
Uh,
have to read Heretics of Dune first though, because
nice.
the guy that I talk about Dune with started reading it, and so we got a book club going on.
Okay, that's cool. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining in, whether you're listening on the live stream or whether you're catching this on any other platform later on. We will be back next week. Joseph, what are we talking about next week?
I guess we probably need to talk about Dune more, and then we'll be talking about the latest episode of Shogun.
Okay, we'll talk about some more Shogun. I'm sure there's something that we're missing too, but yeah, we'll keep kind of we'll continue to do a little bit of
We'll
catch
post
up.
about it in
Yeah.
Discord.
But thank you guys so much. And again, Technically Mexican, thank you. Feel free to. I guess we probably should have done this at the top of the show. We'll get better about this. But if you would like to shout out your channel or anything that you're doing, please, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of just taking this week off because my family's in town. But yeah, the channel's Technically Mexican. I make fun of stuff when it's stupid, and I praise stuff when it's good. I'm trying to create a space for nerds who also have Christian values, and it's okay to not put up with the stuff,
Oh, for sure.
Amen to
I
that.
make comedy, I make songs, I make sketches, and I really, really hate the Wheel of Time TV show. So
I'm right there with you. Joseph loves it. It's his favorite.
yeah,
It's always on repeat at my house.
Yeah, dude.
I'm also working on a studio album of like actual serious music that's
Oh,
not
shoot.
parody stuff,
All right.
and it's almost done.
All right.
Like next
Nice.
month, probably we're gonna release it.
Okay. I want a link when it's out. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
We'll put Wheel of Time footage to it.
We'll do
It
like one
will-
of those
no,
like
You
those-
you have to play it backwards though.
It's like when people used to put like Linkin Park songs to clips from Naruto back in the day. That was like all YouTube was.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Wall and not the Wall, Pink Floyd and Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay.
You sync it up and play it backwards and
Oh, is that okay?
listen to the
yeah.
album.
All right.
You ever
well,
did that? You never listened to the Pink Floyd and watched the Wizard of Oz?
No.
No.
All right, that was a deep cut, I guess.
Sorry. All right, guys. Well,
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude, it is our pleasure. Seriously, it's always great to have you on.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime. You just let us know.
For sure.
All right, you guys can come on my show anytime you want to.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
want to stay up late on a Sunday night.
We will do our best. I got sick like the day after that show. It wasn't from staying up late, but like for whatever reason, like I was out of commission for like I think we did our show on Monday, and then I was like
Yeah.
out of commission for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's plan on talking about Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That'll be
Yes.
fun.
That'll be great. All right, dude. Well, until next time, everyone, take it easy.
Yeah.
See ya.